Hello, welcome back to Bodhran Basics. Today, I'd like to talk about playing without a tipper. And there are two basic hand styles that I'm going to talk about. The first one is going to be playing with the back of the knuckles, and playing in a style very similar to how you'd be playing with a tipper, and how to pull that off. The other one is going to be playing more like a Middle Eastern or Mediterranean frame drum and striking the drum head on with using both hands. The first one we'll talk about, though, is the knuckle style. To get that, you're going to basically, to demonstrate, you're going to be using the back of the middle finger knuckle and aiming for kind of a combination of the knuckle itself here, that joint, and the fleshy part of the back of the knuckle here. So your striking surface is going to be here. And you're going to kind of keep a loosely curled fist. And while I talk about when you're playing with a tipper keeping your wrist fairly straight, in this case you are going to curl it in and swing it back and forth. The basic motion, if you imagine it, is like, you wake up in the morning and your hand fell asleep because you've been sleeping the wrong way on it, and you're shaking it, trying to get it to wake up a little bit. It's a lot of that. You're just swinging it back and forth like this, using the weight of the hand as a pendulum. But you're going to kind of curl your fist loosely, but with that middle knuckle sticking out a little bit more than the others. And that's what's going to strike the drum. And so that's your main stroke for that. And just like when you're playing with a tipper, you don't want to drag your finger across the back of the head. You want to bounce it. So, two things in mind. You want to aim for striking through the head, aim for a point just a couple millimeters past the head, and you want to keep your fist loose. So you strike through and let your knuckle bounce off the drum. You don't want to be tight and rigid. You want to be loose and almost sloppy. When you first do it, you're going to feel like you're just kind of flailing away in kind of a sloppy motion. But that's right. And you can vary the sound to get a little bit different tone out of it by incorporating the backs of your nails and the other fingers. So if you're playing with just a single back of that knuckle, you can bring the nails into it. And to get triplets in this technique is a little bit harder. You're going to incorporate the thumb on the back of the head. So what it'll be will be a downstroke, thumb, upstroke. It's not my strongest technique, so I'm not really good at it, and I don't practice it enough. But it's there. You have that option. And this kind of thing is handy, one, if you happen to be in a place where you don't happen to have your tipper with you, you're playing a borrowed drum, or you just want to try a drum out. It's good to be able to do this. But also sometimes when you're recording, or for a particular tune, if you need a bit of a softer, bassier tone, it gives a little bit more muted tone than playing with a wood or even a bundled rod tipper. So that is knuckle style playing. The second technique borrows from Mediterranean and Middle Eastern frame drums, which are all similar in construction to the Bodhran, although a lot of them have either a narrower shell or a bit of a cutout so you can hold the drum more comfortably and play it like this. For the Bodhran, you're going to stick to keeping it on your lap. And you're going to set it about far enough away from your body that you're not cramped. You want it straight up and down. And your non-dominant hand, which would be your back tone hand if you're playing traditional Irish style, will be up here. And your dominant hand will be over here. And there are 4 basic strokes to it. The first one is your bass note. And remember when I talked about getting a sound out of the Bodhran, how I talked about hitting dead center was not always the liveliest tone. You get more bass a little bit off center in this area. And that you're going to rotate your wrist and slap it with your thumb, and that gets your bass note. And that's called doom. The doom note. Doom. The second tone is the tek, which is closer to the edge. Using your fingertips and rotating your hand the opposite direction. bouncing off there. That's a tick, tick, tick. Boom, tick, tick, tick. The third tone is using the ring finger of your non-dominant hand is slapping in that same spot as a tek along the edge, and that's a ka. So doom tek ka, doom tek ka, and that usually is not as forceful. There's a way to make those louder by snapping. I'm not going to worry about that for now, but this will be mostly in upstrokes if you're playing. So you can play doom ka tek ka, doom ka tek ka. And you've got your basic reel pattern there. And the final tone out of that is the pa, which is just kind of a taking the fingertips and just kind of and that's your kind of flat, slappy sound. You don't have to hit particularly hard. Just let the pads of your fingers smack against the head, which can be used as like a snare drum effect. Now, obviously, this isn't really a technique you need to play for traditional jigs, reels, and the sort. It can be kind of handy as an extra tone if you want some extra texture in a recording. We've already layered in a traditional Bodhran style and you want something a little different, or in tunes that are not traditional Irish tunes and you want a different sound. Again, not something that's necessary to the basics of playing the Bodhran, but it's also cool stuff to have in your arsenal. A note about this type of hand playing: it doesn't work as well in the more modern style drums that have the taped edges, like the red drum I play in some of these, because the tape is actually there to mute some of those overtones, giving you more bass sound to the middle, but you lose some of that ringing overtone. And really, just hear how it sounds on a drum designed for that style of playing. This is kind of a cheap one. You hear how this is an even ringier tone with even more overtones. But you can totally do that to a reel. So yeah, hand style Bodhran playing. It's another option you have, and another arrow in your quiver, or tool in your toolbox, or card in your deck, or technique in your repertoire. There you go. Go forth and play some drums.